Hi, this is Freya from BookBuzzr, and today we are joined by Donna Maguire, author of the Silly Willy Winston series, with 4 books and a 5th launching this month. After close to 40 years in the advertising business, Donna left it behind to care for her grandniece and nephew in Nevada some years ago. She believes that the love for reading is more nurture than nature and reads to her grandchildren often. It is this reading that led her to pursue her lifelong passion of writing children's books. Welcome, Donna. Let's start out with a little bit about you. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to becoming an author?
I will, and I might get a little emotional, with this. I basically have been in marketing my whole life, but my one true love in the beginning was teaching. I had a great aunt who was a nun, and 2 aunts that were nuns, and they taught in Catholic school. And I always thought that would be so wonderful to be able to work with elementary, students and teach them. But my life took a different path, and I ended up in advertising and marketing, which is a little bit of storytelling, anyway, because you're marketing a product and you have a target audience. But the children's books are just something that just brought me back to life. I ended up in Nevada because my nephew had passed away. And I was there the day he was born, and I was the day he passed. And it really took a very big emotional toll on me. And I found that I wasn't able to be as effective in marketing and advertising. His brother's out here in Nevada. He has 2 babies, Olivia, who is almost 3, and Aiden, who's a year and a half. And he said, just pack up, come out here and help me take care of my babies. So basically that's what I did. And, you might have children, but you have dogs, and they're very much like children. You cannot be a curmudgeon around babies. They need positive energy. They need love. No matter how you're feeling, it gave me purpose. And I always loved reading children's books to my daughter and my nephews, and it's just something I started with Olivia and Aiden. And I realized that what was really cool is when you watch a child react to the characters in the children's books. And they start to laugh and giggle out loud and point at the pictures. And I realized I still had passion left in me. It was just in a different area. So I had originally written the books without any intent of having them published. They were strictly books for, my grandbabies. And I never illustrated before. Okay. And I had Winston, who the grandbabies adore. They love to pull in his ears and play with him, and he's just a love. And I thought, I should try to see if I can illustrate him. YouTube's a wonderful thing. And I found a video on how to turn pictures into cartoons and illustrations. And I started playing with him, and I just was able to do it. It was, a simple, technique. And then I had integrated him with, visuals from stock photography. And the stories just, evolved. But I have to go back a little bit, because once I started illustrating, Winston, I thought, boy, he'd make a great superhero. So I threw on a cape and I threw on some masks, and I sent them around to some of the salespeople I had supported when I was doing marketing. And some of them have little children, but older than Olivia and Aiden. Okay. And the one little girl, her name is Sophia Melora, and she's out in Reading, Pennsylvania. And she said, Daddy, this is really awesome. I like this, but what would be really cool? It would be really cool if he had one of those, like Inspector caps with the big, eyeglasses and those kinds of things. And then from there I thought, well, what else could Silly Willy Winston do? you know, he's a tracking dog. I mean, all of his traits serve a purpose. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if he, you know, was not only the inspector and the superhero, but he was an explorer, you know, with the little safari hat and, you know, the binoculars. And then what if he was a pirate, you know? And so they started to evolve that way. And what I wanted to do at the same time with the stories is have some learning in there. You know, if the kids start to learn to enjoy reading, but wouldn't it be great if they learned about some science, via Inspector Snout and the Metamorphoses, or Explorer Snout, where they learned that our world is very big, and even one desert is very different than all the other deserts out there. And at the same time, integrate all the great creatures that inhabit the earth with us. It gives us a sense of responsibility for this planet. So it just kind of evolved, and I ended up with these 5 books that were basically laid out with an image on the bottom and a copy at the top, and the kids liked them. And I showed them to, out here in Las Vegas, it's fascinating. People think of just the Strip, but there's a very creative community out here. And I met some authors, and I said, oh, I wrote some children's books. And they looked at them, and they said, you know, Donna, you should publish these. I said, I don't know how to get a publisher. And they said, no, there's this whole indie craze out there right now that even traditional authors are starting to publish independently because they have more freedom. So I thought, why not? And then I learned how to format it for Kindle, and then I learned how to format it for iTunes, and naturally my background is print because I'm in advertising and marketing. And I learned there are places out there where you can print on demand and you can set it up, and it's just been such a journey. And you know, my life has been changed. I mean, and every child that gets them loves them. And to be honest with you, if I could give them away for free, I would, just to see the expressions on their faces and to hear what they have to say. You know, it's a dream come true.
I mean, while I was researching for the interview, right, I actually read all of your books. So I went through each of your books, and I completely agree with you, because what I found was, even though I'm an adult, I still enjoyed reading them so much. They were so much fun. They were backed up with knowledge, presented, you know, in such a simple, fun manner. And I mean, each book, so if you look at the first one, which is the Case of the Missing Tadpole, so there's the talk of metamorphosis, there's the talk of transformation, growing up, dealing with change. You know, The Tale of Two Deserts, your other book, deals with the life in the, how do you say that? Mojave Desert and the Gobi Desert, yes. And I mean, the animals there, what it's like living there, the climate. There's also, I mean, then there was another book of yours which talks about, you know, fear and how to address fears, so the fears that children have. And I was thinking back to my childhood about my fear of darkness, and, you know, how my parents dealt with that, of course, and how it was so interesting that, you know, each thing was dealt with beautifully. So that's my next question to you.
Right? Thank you.
How did all of these ideas come about? So your next book is now going to be about the Mojave. Did I say that correctly?
Well, actually, that one's out. The one with the Mojave and the Gobi. The one that's being produced now is about pirates.
Yes. I thought that was also about the Mojave Desert and a pyramid under the sea, yes? No?
Well, actually, it's interesting because what I wanted to do is I wanted in each of these books, you know, the hardest one to research was actually the fears, because children are so different than we, you know, we had much simpler lives. We had less to be afraid of. And it was interesting finding fears that would hit the 6 to 8 group where they were still afraid of those things. Because they have more sophisticated fears now. But when I got into like the inspector, I started to think, what are natural mysteries that need to be solved? And my daughter, Caitlin, loved tadpoles and anything slimy that crawled around when she was little. She loved to go to the creek. Matter of fact, she still loves to do it today. She's 20 years old. And I thought, who doesn't like a good tadpole? Mm-hmm. And what happens to a tadpole? They change. So, it started this whole thought process of, well, what else changes and how does it change? And then I researched, what changed and how it changed so that there was some fact in there. But to me, that was setting children up. They're reading now, 6 to 8. Mm-hmm. They're starting to go to school. They already love reading, hopefully. That's why they're reading the series. But now they need to learn how to love learning. Mm-hmm. And how do you learn to love learning? Similar to me learning how to do the books. Books became a passion, so learning how to make it all happen wasn't even work. Mm-hmm. It was fun, right? Yes. So if we can plant the seed with 6 to 8-year-olds on learning is fun, maybe the teachers will have an easier time when they get there, because what's the question you always ask your teacher? Why do I need to know that?
Yes. There was a why for everything.
Right. And if you just say to somebody, because it's part of the curriculum, but if you make it so that what they're learning impacts their life and their interests, mm-hmm. then they're more open to learning. They want to learn. So each of the books was meant to plant a seed. The desert was about geography. Well, what do kids love? They love animals, right? They love dinosaurs and dinosaur eggs. So, I started researching what animals live in which deserts. And I realized I even learned something. I learned that there are cold deserts, like the Antarctic is a desert. I probably learned that somewhere, but I didn't remember. Uh-huh. And then I started looking at, there's over 50 deserts. Well, I can't cover 50 deserts in 48 pages. Which desert are we going to go look at? Mm-hmm. And I learned that the Gobi was the first desert where they found dinosaur eggs. Wow. And they're still there today? And I thought, wow. What child is not going to want to know that there are still dinosaur eggs? We have to go to the Gobi. And then you find there are animals that just live in the Gobi. Mm-hmm. One, that the UN has a program to conserve because there's only around 20 of them left. It's the Gobi bear, and it only lives in the Gobi.
Wow, okay.
How could I not write about that?
Yes, how could I know about that? How did I not? I've never known about this. It's so amazing that you find a bear living in a desert, right? You hear the Siberian bear and all the others, but I've never heard of this one myself.
Right, it's that. And then when I thought of pirates now, I was looking at what are unusual, shipwrecks. Mm-hmm. And I found that there was a shipwreck right here in the Mojave Desert. Okay. It caught up in a swell, uh-huh. And it got in the middle of the desert, and they had to leave their pearls behind because they couldn't carry the booty out with them, uh-huh. And it really exists. And then that led me to research a pyramid that they found under the sea off the coast of Portugal, mm-hmm. And scientists still can't determine if the materials used for that pyramid are man-made.
Wow.
Talk about a treasure, right? And then you find out about whales whose hearts are as big as, a car. Mm-hmm. Well, I was fascinated,
Okay, so, I can so see why, and I can see why I enjoyed those books, because I enjoy learning and they were so well put out to learn, right? So I'm going to now move to your muse and your inspiration. So, I've seen pictures of Winston, your basset hound, on Facebook, and he is just so adorable. I can also understand, why he would be the muse for your book, because he's just so perfect. And I have to make a special mention for this, but being someone who has dogs myself, the one thing I really, really liked when I read your books was how you described Winston, his nose and his ears, and why does it work. So most people actually don't know why basset hounds have such big ears, right? The fact that his ears are in the air and all of that. So that was really cool. That was also educational, because it actually teaches, a child why certain things are, or why animals are the way they are, and you learn to appreciate the fact that big ears are not just big ears, but much more than that. So I'm going to come to the next question that I have for you, which is, would you tell us why you chose him as your main character? What is, so what is the story behind your books? Why do you write stories?
Well, this is a little personal too, with why he's such a good fit. Winston is perfect because he's not perfect.
And I think it's I think it's perfect that we're talking about Winston and dogs, and I have my pack going, bow, bow.
Yes,
I don't know if you can hear them. So,
yes. It's absolutely adorable. But Winston is perfect because he's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to tell my daughter all the time that when you fall in love, you don't fall in love with someone's perfection.
Mm-hmm.
You fall in love with their imperfections.
Right.
Because that is what makes them unique.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter was on the heavy side going through school, and I didn't always realize it, because she was one of those lucky people that wore her extra weight all over, and I just thought she was beautiful. But, bullying is an issue nowadays, and my problem is, and what I felt very guilty about, is I did not know that Caitlin was bullied until it was too late to instill what you need to compete or defend yourself against bullying. And out of all the research that I read on bullying, the strongest defense is a sense of self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And, I used to say to her all the time, when someone picks on you, you just go, whatever. Because if they don't get to you, they're going to move on. But I didn't talk to her early on about bullying. You think it happens in middle school or whatever. Now, when I looked at Winston and I looked about everything we talked about, how he's perfect because he's not perfect, I thought he is the perfect character to create a conversation with parents and children. Winston has these really big ears and people make fun of him, or he's got this huge snout. But look how he uses what would typically be looked at as a flaw to his advantage. Because each of us is different, and each of us might have behaviors or interests or appearances that other people think are funny.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to learn how that makes us unique, so that we can, instead of looking at it as, I'm upset with you, look at your uniqueness as a way of making friends and turning those things around. But by introducing it early, I thought it could create a discussion. Or do you ever feel different, like Silly Willy Winston does? Does anyone ever, make you uncomfortable because, you have an attribute? And how do you handle it? Do you know anybody else that might be different, that kids, just, and then parents can be what parents are, the good teachers. If the communication opens up, they can take it from there and use that conversation point to educate children on, tolerance, self-acceptance, self-discovery, self-love, and love and friendship of others. So there's really a lot behind these books, and it's hard to put in a little synopsis, you know.
It is. It's really nice. I mean, and I can see that there's so much thought. So it's not just about. I mean, a lot of times I think people think that just how difficult can it be to write a children's book, because you think of it like telling a child a tale, but there is so much thought. And I realize, when I think back to the stories my grandmother told me, because I think it's grandparents who tell more stories than parents do.
This is true.
And I think back, and today, I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't really understand and appreciate how much thought she put into every story that she told me. But today, when I look back and when I'm listening to you, I realize that there's so much thought to it. It's not just, it's not just a story. There is so many layers and so much that you're actually telling people, right? So, I mean, moving on from here, so we're going to talk a little bit about marketing. And I mean, when I looked at your books, I realized that you've tried so many different ways to market your books. You've done giveaways.
I don't know if I lost you.
Sorry, can you hear me? Am I back?
Okay, I think we're back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. You were talking about, all the different marketing.
Yes, so you've done various forms of marketing for your books. You've done giveaways, contests, you've created videos, you've used BookBuzzr technologies, you've used Facebook, Goodreads. So would you tell us a little bit, I mean, and recently you've even launched an online store on your website so your books can be bought directly, right? So
yes.
Would you tell us a little bit about your experiences with marketing? What are out of all of these things that you've done, which ones have really worked very well for you? Which are the best ones? What are your top learnings from all that you've done in these years?
I think that marketing is the toughest part about being a children's book author, especially if you're an unknown entity, And I didn't really plan on marketing the book. So I had 4 books, and I've kind of like been behind the 8 ball on how to market it. Mm-hmm. And my thinking is that, it's all of those things. I mean, it's the social media, and what makes the social media great is you can really connect with your audience and the parents of those. I liken it to pushing a boulder up Mount Everest. And, you're halfway there and you're going, wow, is anything I'm doing working? Mm-hmm. And then you start seeing that with the giveaways come more Facebook likes from the sources that you're doing, the giveaways. You see that on Goodreads, there are more being added to the to read, aspect of things. But, the sales are really, just not really taking off yet. But I feel so optimistic and hopeful based on the level of activity, the number of people that are following me. But I really do think the key to Silly Willy Winston is making him accessible to children, making him, a real character for them. One of the things I'm working on now is I created a coloring book, an electronic coloring book.
Yes,
yes. But I don't know how to package it from Xcode to get it onto iTunes. But I'll figure that out, and then I think I have to become an Apple developer to get them on there. But what I really, really want to do, and what I really think is going to help the books take off, is I want to get out to bookstores, which is a little harder as an independent. I want to get into, libraries. But I'm developing a program that I hope to launch in Las Vegas called the Silly Willy Winston Children's Book Review Club. And I'd like to get into the schools, and I'd like the children to be able to pick which book they want to read, provide them with a copy of the book on loan, because there's like 30 kids in a class or how many, and make it part of the curriculum where they read the book. And they write a review, So they learn how to share their objective opinion and to communicate their thoughts, have the teacher help them refine it, not from oh, that's a bad review or a good review. And then I'd like to get crayon pictures of them and put them on my website with their reviews. Because a lot of sites don't let children review, but you're writing for the children. I mean, obviously you want the parents to know that it's a good, wholesome message, that their children are going to benefit from the messaging in the books, and it's not underlying, adult, humor in the books. But if you're a children's book writer, and I can only speak for myself, but I have to believe that the majority of children's book writers are writing because they love children, and they want their children to love to read, because if you can read, you can do anything. That I just want a place where children can review the children's books, and tell other children what they think. So
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think if we talk about word of mouth marketing, then this makes so much sense, because if I'm someone who loves romance books and I'm telling friends who I know would like romance books, I recommend the books I like to them. The same thing would apply to children, right? Because if one child really enjoyed a book, then they know exactly whom to tell, because even in their circles, they know which friends of theirs would enjoy reading, which don't, all of that. So it makes so much sense. It also makes, I also really like the fact that the program would have this little bit of them writing, because I've been reviewing books for a few years now, and I realize the fact that I have to sit down and write a review makes me so much more structured in my thought. It gets me to think so much more about the book, whereas earlier I would have just read it, said, yes, I like it, and kept it away, but I haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about it. But writing a review makes you think, right? It makes you look at
it. You make an excellent point, because even though you want the children to read the books themselves, if you want them to comprehend and have fluency in the reading, it's really participatory with the parents. Yeah. And I've learned a lot about that too, with them, talking about the books before, during, and after, that they're doing it, so that they can communicate their feelings and help to start structuring what they've read and what it means to them. And the word you used was thinking, structured thinking, and that's exactly, what the book review would help them do. So.
Yes, great. I all the best for your program. I hope it takes off and does really well, because I see it not only benefit you but also benefit so many children out there, right? Okay, your new book that is coming out this month, when is it due?
Well, actually, my books, I want to just put a little shout out to a woman by the name of Irina Dimitri, who read one of my books and really liked it, and it's funny because we've been friends for years, and she's in marketing, and she said, Donna, I hope you don't mind, but I edited your book, and she sent me this PDF. It was just getting ready to go to press, and her comments, although they weren't like big comments, just made the stories so much better. A little change here, a little change there. And she said to me, do you mind if I read all of your books? She said, Stephen King didn't do it by himself. And she has taken on the role of my unofficial, editor. And I said, well, maybe I can give you, a piece of the action. And she said, no. But if Disney calls you, then we'll change the pay structure. So, but she's fallen a little bit behind with the holidays, and it'll probably launch the beginning of January. But I wouldn't dare, after seeing what a great enhancement she's made with the books, I wouldn't dare go to press without her comments. And it's refreshing too, because she looks at them from my perspective. You can find professional editors out there that really want to put their mark on things, and they might want to change it, a little bit, too much and get off the creative path. But Oh my goodness, I couldn't have done it, as well without her. So a big thank you to her.
Superb. Okay, so now since we're talking about the next book that is coming, which is The Mystery of the Desert and on the Seas, could you tell us? I mean, you've launched about 4 books before this, so and launches take a lot of time and effort. It's a lot of work that goes into making or getting a book launched. So would you tell us a little bit about your marketing plan for your upcoming book? What are the activities you intend to do around launch? And what are your learnings from all the previous launches you've had?
My plan is to pretty much follow what I've done. I mean, BookBuzzr is a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I found them, and I was amazed at how they were able to bring my books to life on my website.
Mm-hmm.
People are very stimulated by movement and a lot of, activity. Getting someone to look at a stagnant page can be very difficult. And when I saw how, you allow them to look at my books as if they're reading them on a tablet or an electronic device, I thought, I absolutely positively have to have this. So I think that was a big plus. I think the giveaways are a big deal. Not that a lot of people leave reviews, but you start to notice that you went from like 0 on the to read list to, in some cases, 500, have the book to read. Well, eventually that's going to happen. I've also listened to a lot of traditional authors that have gone indies, and they say the key to an indie writer is a series.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the pirate is just going to enhance the whole series. Truth be told, I have 3 more concepts in my head of where I want to go with the main characters, and I love creating the book so much that after the pirate is done, I won't allow myself to, start another one until, I get some of these other marketing ideas off the ground. And I think the marketing is going to include boots on the ground, getting to libraries, getting to schools, getting to independent, bookstores, and book signings. I think it's going to include, getting something that, shoots me out there and gets Silly Willy, more recognized, like the coloring book on, iTunes. You're a lot younger than I am, so I don't know if you remember color forms. You used to get a character, and the character would come with different hats and different capes, and it was all static cling. And you would take the character and you would dress them up, kind of like a flat Mr. Potato Head. And I'm thinking that one of the things I want to look at is doing a color form Silly Willy Winston, I'd like to create some apps for him, like some game apps where, he's at the 6 to 8 where you take him, on different adventures, and he's got to find different things, and you get points or whatever. So I have more marketing ideas than I have time right now. But, I really think the key for 2016 for me is I've got to get in front of the kids. It just, not only for them and for the books, but for me. I just love children, so.
Yes, I think you would find a lot. I mean, it would one be fun, and it would also be very inspiring because they are, after all, your audience, right?
Yes. So, like I said, if I could give them away for free, I think I'd give everybody a Silly Willy Winston book.
Okay, I want to come back and talk about this a little more, but before I do that, I'm going to have one question that I want to ask. So you talked about BookBuzzr, and I'd like to talk about that a little more. So, in all the variety of tools and technologies that you've used for marketing and promoting your book, BookBuzzr is one of those technologies that you've used, and you've used the book flipper which has, allows you to showcase. So you've used it to showcase your book and give readers a taste or a glimpse into what your books look like. So why did you choose BookBuzzr? How did you come across it? What is it that you really love about it?
I think I came across it on a social media site as I was investigating how to promote, your books. There are a lot of blogs out there, and I went on the site. It's very, very professional. And I'll tell you, in today's environment, and I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, I'm a pretty positive person, but customer service is an issue in a lot of, companies. You have a concern, even, the big ones, and you have a question, and you don't get a response. I had an issue, and it was actually ended up being on my end with BookBuzzr that my wireless at home is not great, so it wasn't showing up. The people at BookBuzzr, the technical support was just, they were all over it. It was like, let me try this, let me try that, we're going to go into your website, we're going to do this, and even when I said to them, the problem's on my end, are you sure, so any company that, it's so minimal. I think it's $60 a book for a year.
Yes.
I don't want to, misquote you because I don't, know if those rates are going to stay, but it's so minimal, and you're surrounded by people that want to help you succeed. It's a no-brainer to me. And like I said, the best part is it brings your book to life. And I know there's more there that I haven't taken advantage of yet. I'm just a little bit behind. I'm constantly going. I babysit, 3 days a week, and every other moment I'm spending, figuring out how to do a coloring book, or getting in front of the schools, or the social media, campaign, which is a big part of it. And that's something I want to say too. I don't know if it's about all author groups, but the children's book authors are probably the most supportive group of people you are ever going to meet. They are so open to sharing ideas on what worked for them, what didn't work for them, reposting, sharing, your post, answering questions. It's like a whole other family,
Yes, that actually, I'm sure it would be an amazing support system and such a learning space, right? It would open so much out for you.
Inspiration, and also, let's face it, everybody gets, I don't care how positive you are, you have down days where you're thinking, am I crazy? Are these books as good as I think they are? Or, am I like off my rocker and I really shouldn't even be doing this, and they're good, they're honest, they'll tell you when they think you've, swayed off the path, but they're also very supportive, keep going, you can do this.
Excellent. Okay, so first of all, I have to thank you, and I'm sure the team's going to send you a big thank you note because you made our day today. I'm glad to hear that everything that we do. And these are some of the cores of BookBuzzr also, right? We are all about customer service. We want to see every author successful and happy. So we're glad to hear that it's all working, right? And we're glad to hear. So we built this technology for an author in the first place because he was having these troubles. So it was inspired by an author. He came and told the team what his problems were, and the technology was actually built specifically for an author. So
that's so awesome.
Yes, so I'm glad that that it's actually working. So I'm going to go back to our previous question where you were talking about books and giving away books and all of that. So somewhere along in your website, I came across these programs that you work with, and you have an entire list on your website of children's programs. Would you like to quickly tell us a little bit about it, or maybe give a shout out to any of those programs that you really like?
Well, I have, basically, I think what you're referring to is the children's resources.
Yes.
And, one of them is the Spaghetti Book Club,
Mm-hmm.
which is more formal than the Silly Willy Winston Children's Book Review Club. But they have a whole curriculum online for teachers who want to integrate reviews in the classroom on a more formal capacity. So I love that site. I loved what they were doing. Reading Rocket is a great organization that really helps parents, determine what's the best way to help their children fall in love with reading, how to deal with struggling readers, how to determine, reading levels, and then there are a couple of review sites that I really like. One is called Five Girls Book Reviews, and it's run by a mother who has 4 daughters.
Wow.
And she is a homeschool mom, and she blogs, and her children are avid readers. So what she does is she basically brings in the books, she reads them, makes sure they're appropriate for her girls, and then her girls write the reviews.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
It is. It's very, very cool.
And I'm starting to find more and more of those. There's one called Black Words on White Pages, which follows the same suit. And there's also a mommy bookworm, book nerd, or I don't have it right in front of me, and I'm a little older, so I can't remember all of the details. But I just love where that is going. So.
Okay. Now, before we kind of end this conversation today, would you like to give a quick? Would you like to quickly tell us where people can find you online, and your website, your books, even your social channels?
Sure. I am my website is very simple. It's sillywillywinston.com. The Facebook is the same. It's facebook.com/sillywillywinston. On Twitter, we're Twitter at DMM Silly.
Okay.
And we're on Pinterest too, but I don't remember where that is. The best way to find me is, once you're in Goodreads or Shelfari or any of those, Amazon, if you just search Donna Maguire, I'll generally, come up there. To buy the books, I have them available in paperback and electronic versions, both the Kindle and the iTunes. It's very easy to find my books if you're looking for ebooks on Amazon. If you search Donna Maguire, my author page should come up. But what I did is on the Buy Books tab on the website, it will show you all of the paperbacks that are available online. But it also has links on the bottom, just in case you prefer to buy from Amazon, the Kindle version, or iTunes, the iBooks. But if you're buying the paperbacks, I really want to be as economical as possible, and I can't offer discounts on Amazon like I can. So when you buy a book online, a paperback, you basically can also get the MP3 file that goes with the book for free. A coloring book comes with it, and then I offer discounts of 5%, 7.5%, and 10%, depending on if you buy 2, 3, or 4 books, and that's automatically, calculated at checkout. You don't need, any of those coupon codes or anything like that. So.
Great. I mean, and you say, like you said, people wanted to avail this. They just need to go to your website and buy the books off the store on the website, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And quickly,
if they prefer, because some people do prefer Amazon because they have an account. The links are all there at the bottom, so it's easy for them if they go to the buy now, but they want to buy somewhere else. Scroll down to the bottom, and it's easy to find the links to where else they can be bought.
Okay, I'm going to give a quick shout out to BookBuzzr. So for all those who are listening and want to know about BookBuzzr, then BookBuzzr is a tool BookBuzzr is a company that makes technologies for authors. So if you're an author or publisher, The BookBuzzr Flipper encourages your readers to preview an excerpt of your book on your blog, website, Goodreads posts, Facebook pages, and even in your email. Your BookBuzzr subscription also comes with the Amazon Alerts tool, which tracks your book's performance across multiple Amazon sites and sends you an email if there's a jump in your Amazon sales rank. You could check out more about BookBuzzr and how it works at bookbuzzr.com. That's BookBuzzr.com, right? Thank you so much, Donna. It was such fun talking to you today. We should do this again sometime.
I would love to.